Howdy, this is Dan, and in keeping with all of my Christmas songs that I've been posting since, well, Thanksgiving and up through today, Christmas, I thought I would end with the same song that I always end with, for those of you who have actually followed this whole thing in the past. It's called Christmas Eve 1914 in No Man's Land. There's a version on YouTube that's not terrible, but I usually just post that one, but not really big on the guy's voice, and granted I'm not sure that I can do better, but I figured I would give it a shot here. Unfortunately, I have no musical accompaniment. I'm doing this a cappella, and so it's probably going to suck anyway. Plus, I've got to keep it down a little bit and not use my normal singing voice because I don't want to wake anybody up. So there's that. Hey, it'd be great to do this with accompaniment at some point. That would be super. Some Christmas Eve or whatever. That'd be great, but well, whatever. So anyway, like I said, it's called Christmas Eve 1914 in No Man's Land. It takes place in the Western Front, in the trenches during 1914, World War I. It's a story between the British and the Germans. There's some contention as to whether or not it's true or exaggerated, things like that. I'd like to think that it is true. Considering there's a lot of writing in, the old soldiers' journals and things like that from the time, on both sides, saying that this happened and that people, met good friends and things like that. And, continued to converse after the war and everything, back and forth through post. So like I said, there's evidence saying that it really happened, so I'm inclined to believe that it did happen. Plus, it makes me feel good, which is part of what Christmas is all about. Feeling good, making other people feel good, giving, good times, positivity. And since generally humanity totally sucks, seriously, you guys, and I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying in general, humanity totally worthless. And I hate them. And we all hate each other. That's why it's so easy to do. But, if we could stop for just a second and maybe not hate each other and, do something like this, well, hey, maybe I'd hate everybody less too. But, really hard to happen, so go us, right? Anyway, enough of that. This is my favorite Christmas song, Christmas Eve 1914 in No Man's Land. I'm going to try to sing it. Probably going to suck. Probably just scrap this and go with the version that I always do and write something nice about it on the Facebook. But anyway, here goes nothing. Christmas Eve in 1914, stars were burning, burning bright, and all along the Western Front, the guns were lying still and quiet. Men lay dozing in the trenches, in the cold and in the dark, and far away behind the lines, a village dog began to bark. Some lay thinking of their families, some sang songs while others were quiet, rolling smokes and playing brag, to while away that Christmas night. But as they watched the German trenches, something moved in no man's land, and through the dark there came a soldier, carrying a white flag in his hand. Then from both sides the men came running, crossing into no man's land. Through barbed wire and mud and shell holes, they shyly stood there shaking hands. Fritz brought out cigars and brandy, Tommy brought corned beef and fags. stood there talking, singing, laughing, as the moon shone down on no man's land. Christmas Day, we all played football in the mud of no man's land. Tommy brought some Christmas pudding. Fritz brought out a German band. When they beat us at the football, we shared out all the grub and drink. And Fritz showed me a faded photo of a dark-haired girl back in Berlin. For 4 days after, no one fired. Not one shot disturbed the night. For old Fritz and Tommy Atkins, they both had lost the will to fight. So they withdrew us from the trenches, sent us far behind the lines, sent fresh troops to take our places, and told the guns prepare to fire. And the next night, in 1914, flares were burning, burning bright. The message came along the trenches, o'er the top we're going tonight. The men stood waiting in the trenches, looking across our football park, and all along the Western Front, the Christmas guns began to bark. Men stood waiting in the trenches, looking across our football park, and all along the Western Front, the Christmas guns began to bark. So that's it. That is Christmas Eve 1914 in No Man's Land. No idea who it's originally by. I know a lot of groups such as Gaelic Storm, for example, have done it in the past, but there's a lot of people online who claim that it's their song, but I don't think it's any of their songs. So anyway, Merry Christmas, love ya, hate ya, Happy New Year.